Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.L.S. here. Back at you with another video. Hope everyone's well wherever you are. Obviously, this is part 2 of For All the Love of Italian Football and Celtic, which I didn't quite get around to finishing last night as I planned. Today, I was actually thinking of talking about my plans for my paperwork or writings and stuff like that generally. But anyway, I decided to do this instead. So anyway, I hope you enjoy it. But I suppose the main part of the reason why I decided to do this today is because Italy played Northern Macedonia, so I thought it would be quite apt to continue on from talking about Italian football. So anyway, I hope people out there enjoy it, especially obviously fans of Italian football and of course Celtic, or fans of football generally, as I say. I hope you'll share it with fans of soccer or footy or whatever you call it. And here goes. So number 11. Looking at the score today, I didn't get to see the game, but looking at the score, it was 1-1 with Italy and Northern Macedonia. I know I watched the England versus Ukraine game, but that was also fun enough 1-1. But yeah, Italy not doing too well at the moment, and I know Italy has a new manager. But I was thinking I'd love to read and listen to Italian football fans' views generally, more generally speaking, especially fans of the national team. I thought it was well, I didn't see the game, so I can't really comment. But from what I've read, from what little I've read so far, it doesn't look too good at the moment. I know it's a new manager now, but I do have my fears about whether it looks to me like Italian football does need a lot of improvement. With all due respect to Northern Macedonia, I think Italy's got to beat a team like that if Italy wants to get back to being world class, like with Brazil and Argentina and Germany, France, Spain, and teams like that, or even England at the moment, who I think are doing fairly well. Although they weren't that great against the Ukraine, but I think a lot of improvements need to be done. But I would love to also hear from my fellow Italian football fans about whether you're concerned for the team. And one of the things I was wondering is whether Italy should play more younger players, play the youth, and forget about the 2024 Euros, maybe even if Italy doesn't qualify, but just play younger players ready for the 2026 World Cup so Italy can get back on track in that World Cup instead. In the World Cup, instead of the Euros. So yeah, maybe play the youth so at least they get some experience ready for 2 years' time. Play some of the younger players at least. I'd always love to see Italy play at least 321 players, but especially in Euros, Olympics. Most of the players are young anyway, but I'd love to see Italy play as many young players as possible. Again, especially in Euros, and the youngest team we can get in the Olympics and other competitions, and even in the World Cup, but more so in other competitions, ready to prepare them for the World Cup. I know sometimes we probably need that bit of experience. Another thing I was thinking is with the I normally like to try and think of something new or different to cover, especially for point number 11, but I do struggle sometimes to think of something new because I'm a creature of habit. One of the ideas I was thinking of actually is to talk about my patterns, like me and my patterns and stuff like that. But anyway, back to the topic, and the San Siro Stadium. I was thinking about there was talk about destroying the San Siro Stadium, which is an iconic stadium, obviously in Milan. And I was wondering whether, instead of destroying it, I'm not sure if this report is accurate, but I read recently that on Facebook that as I typed in San Siro, I read that the city council of Lombardy, which I think Milan is a part of, if I'm not mistaken. I'm terrible at geography, so I'm not sure, but I've said that the San Siro cannot be knocked down because it's a historical stadium. But I was wondering if the old and current stadium, as many stadiums in Italy are quite old, which many people say is another weakness Italian football can have a lot of time, or does have, in terms of attracting investment and things like that, and fans to come watch the game. If Italy kept the old / current stadium, and used that for youth development. So it could be Italy's answer to, or Italy's own version of, whichever way you like to look at it, St. George's Park, which England has, and La Masia, which Barcelona had, which did really well, or even like Ajax, where they have a great stadium, although they're a feeder club for others. For Italy's national team, especially, the San Siro could be Italy's version of all those sorts of stadiums. St. George's, La Masia, and whatever Ajax's stadium is called, I forget. I think it's the Ajax Arena or whatever it's called. And although it's in Milan, I think it'd be cool if it was used for all of Italian football development. And before I thought St. George's Park was St. James's Park, but obviously that's Newcastle's own park. But yeah, if the San Siro was used to develop Italian football and learn from all other teams around the world, and I'd love for Juventus, which actually means youth, also to have, obviously Juventus in Turin, to also have their own youth academies, but the San Siro could be a part of that development. So it might not be the only, it could be Italy having training and development centres all across the country, which would be more convenient for different areas, but Milan could have its own version, which would be San Siro. And then they could build a new stadium for the seniors. Number 12, as I mentioned about having younger players, I would love to see at least 3 under-21 players in all senior games, and Italy just generally playing as many young players as possible, although I know they need that bit of experience sometimes, having 1 or 2 experienced heads. But I think it'd be cool if they could put an experienced head or an older head on a younger player rather than the other way around. So obviously you can't do it the other way around. So basically for younger players to learn more quickly so that they can be more ready and practice more. So obviously they'll be better hopefully when they're older. That's the hope anyway. I know not everyone might agree with me on that one, but I'm a great believer in youth development and that kind of thing. Number 13, what are some of the issues facing Italian football? I'd love to hear from people like what people hate or dislike at least about Italian football, so that Italian football can look at how to address those issues. Number 14, to solve problems similar with Celtic as well, of course. As often, when I think of one, I normally think of the other, generally speaking. Not always, but generally speaking. So, yeah, solving those issues, like what Celtic could do to improve how the club itself at least could work to tackle hooliganism, as well as Italian clubs could work to do that. Italian football generally as well, the national team. And footballers could be like heroes that go into schools and talk to young people about avoiding crime, improving their diets, staying out of trouble, always obeying the law, staying out of fighting, and playing football instead. That could be a good way to, as an outlet, to keep people out of trouble, keep people away from hooliganism, fighting hopefully through playing football and having something to do, something to work on. So hopefully they won't get bored and get involved in hooliganism, but instead their goal could be to continue to help Italian football to become as successful as possible. Number 15, again, that focus on helping Italian football to become successful as possible. Hope you like my top, by the way. That could be this is another one of my Italian tops, but yeah, that could be a way to keep people occupied and bring society together, for all Italian society to work together, similar with Celtic and Celts perhaps. I'd love for Celtic, on that note, to be a representative of Celtic countries, given their name as well and that kind of thing. Number 16, I hope that Italian football will have like committees, think tanks, or whatever you want to call them, basically a group of people that come together and agree on what's best for Italian football, and sometimes trial and error. So I think sometimes when you have too many voices, it can sort of get clouded, as they say, too many cooks. But at the same time, a lot of time, there's more heads. 2 heads are better than 1, and many heads are better than 2. So it'd be great if they could discuss what's best for Italian football in terms of increasing investment and sponsorship, how Italian society can come together through football, and just anything that can benefit Italian football financially or in other ways. Most importantly, in terms of winning trophies, which for a competitive bugger like me is the most important thing in many ways. And football is one of the most important things in my life. I think it's one of the few things you can seem to be able to enjoy nowadays. But maybe I should find some other hobby as well. But strangely, I love writing in spite of my punctuation and handwriting. But anywho, with my hoarding and collecting too many paperworks, it's quite difficult. But yeah, sorry, I'd love to see people coming together and discussing what's in Italian football's best interest. And similar with Celtic, I've probably mentioned this point again, knowing me being very repetitive, but before, but Italian politicians / councillors, people involved in politics, decision making, people involved in business, the Italian FA, FIGC, Serie A, the people who run Serie A, Serie B, Serie C, and all the grassroots teams. and that kind of thing, and Italy's wider society all coming together to discuss how to improve Italian football as quickly as possible. I don't have much hopes for Euro 2024, but there could be miracles. I didn't really see Italy winning Euro 2020, which came a year late because of COVID, but obviously Italy did go and win that, so you never know. I suppose Italy could transform the fortunes quickly, but it's unlikely at the moment because Italy seems to be struggling to pick up points. It might not even finish second to Ukraine, which, again, with all due respect to Ukraine, given its history in terms of football, with all due respect to Ukraine, Northern Macedonia, and other teams, I think, look, in history, Italy and England would normally be dead set favourites for coming first and second between us, and especially the Euros recently, both Italy and England got to the final. But at the moment, for whatever reason, Italy's not cutting it. So I think losing Chiellini, who got a bit too old, and Bonucci's quite old, and that kind of thing. So some of our players getting quite old, and new players coming in has been difficult. But again, I wonder if Italy should play younger players for the future. But again, I think it'd be cool to have Italian fans talking about what's best for Italian football. Also working with those from the diaspora who might be able to share ideas from America, Canada, Brazil, Argentina, and all around the world. Number 17. If I'm really dreaming and using my imagination, I'd say I would love to see Italian teams, both at club and country level, winning as many trophies as possible, and similar, obviously, for Celtic, especially domestically. And I hope to use my special needs imagination to talk about what strengths we have and work. I'd love to work with Made by Dyslexia, the Dyslexia Advantage, and others to talk about what we can do for Italian football and Celtic. Again, soccer, calcio, whatever you want to call it. Footy, football. I prefer to call it footy, but football's cool as well. I accept any of those terms, or like all those terms, but I know some people don't like the term soccer. On that note, I think it'd be cool if Italy could use, or Italy and Celtic could have like Serie A Soccer Limited, and and Celtic Soccer Limited, which would be, which is my idea for Italian football and Celtic, to work with those who use the term soccer, especially America, to work with American football. And also, yes, Australia, where they say Socceroos, I think they use the term soccer as well. So obviously, Australia also has a big Italian diaspora as well as an Irish diaspora. But yeah, because a lot of parts of Europe don't like to use the term soccer, hopefully that will give Italy, including especially Serie A and Celtic, an advantage by using the term soccer. Number 18, I love for people to discuss what they think are positive things about Italian football and stroke or Celtic. Generally speaking. Number 19, I'd love to see how Italian football and Celtic could fundraise for supporting Indigenous Africans and Australasians in STEM. I know I always say that one, but including software development. And number 20, I think it'd be cool if older people in Italy passed on their experience of football as much as possible, as many of them as possible, to the youth. It'd be great if the youth can practice with older players and learn from them, obviously in safe environments. If there were training centres where they could go and play together with older players, like parents, uncles, and older people generally could work with younger people to train them, and they could all come together through football. Obviously nowadays with child protection, like say in the UK, parents don't like to see their children going out too much. A lot of parents don't like to see that, and if they do, they get sort of ridiculed for that kind of thing. And I don't think there's so many opportunities for younger players to play football with older players. So I think it'd be cool if Italy did that. It would obviously give them an advantage, because I think younger players can learn a lot from older players, their experiences. I mean, part of me does think, like say the football hooligans. I often think, what if they're not that good at football, but maybe some of them are, for instance. But I was thinking, what if they do smoke or drink or things like that? But what if instead of having those sorts of things where they smoke and drink and take drugs or break the law or anything like that, or use violence, they could use that energy to train the youth. And again, Italians can work together and share ideas and look at how they can agree to disagree in some areas, and use trial and error to see what works best, what doesn't work best, and what works best, what doesn't work so well, and what does work so well, or works well at least. And yeah, just try different things and experiment and it would be good if they led by example, had better diets. I'd love for Italians to be teetotalers. I know it's probably another pipe dream of mine. I'd love for them not to smoke, drink alcohol, take drugs, or break the law, or anything like that. And hopefully that'll be as good examples for younger people, and they can focus all that energy on football. And again, instead of being involved in hooliganism, maybe hooligans could be encouraged to invest in their local clubs and also train some of the younger people in the safest possible environment, which is safest for everyone as well, trying to keep people safe and united through football. Again, a lot of those ideas I have for town football can be applied for Celtic and vice versa. They can be used. If I do well with that momentum, like I say, if I achieve success with Italian football, I could take that success and replicate it and use it for Celtic and vice versa. Hopefully, that's the plan anyway. Anyway, I'm going to stop waffling. I hope you enjoyed it, especially, I'll say, it's a fan of Italian football and Celtic. And I'm out. Peace out.